here. Yes. Loud and proud. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. It's a distinct pleasure. I like to turn things...
Enough love. You are like, I don't want to say you're my favorite because I don't like picking favorites, but you are amazing as the Doctor.
Thank you very much.
I guess I've seen you in a couple of science fiction roles, and my question is, do you have a particular affection for science fiction? And if you do, what's your favorite kind of alien?
I loved Star Trek when I was a kid.
Classic.
It was my dad who passed away in 2012 was quite a difficult man to reach, you know, but one of the ways I could spend time with my dad was watching Star Trek. My dad was a real fan of sci-fi. The moon landings in the 60s really compelled him. So I got into Star Trek and stuff like that to be close to my dad. So I was a real Trekkie.
He tips his hat to you, friend.
Real Trekkie.
The American Doctor Who, really.
Yeah. It was brilliant character drama, the triangle between Bones, Spock, and Kirk.
Great triumvirate, I love them.
Yeah.
They're so good.
And I suppose the one that really transfixed me was Blade Runner. And Blade Runner really appealed to me because although it's sci-fi, it's about what it is to be human. The replicants long to be human. And in terms of a favourite alien,
Maybe on Doctor Who or in anything else?
Yeah, well, when me and Billy started shooting, I think the first time I had to deal with an alien was an actor of, I don't know what the thing to say is in PC world now. He was an actor of small stature. He's a Scottish guy, and he was dressed as a pig.
Oh, yeah, that episode.
Who was dressed as an astronaut.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
And my first alien pursuit as the Doctor was to chase a small Scottish man dressed as a pig. Dressed as an astronaut. So he's definitely my favourite alien.
That's Doctor Who.
I didn't need legal marijuana or anything.
Wild. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Come on up.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say that you're awesome, and I love watching you on Doctor Who.
Thank you.
I have an odd question for you, because I love you as a doctor, but I was wondering, do you ever see yourself playing as a companion, and how would you see yourself?
I think it's time for white, middle-aged males to step aside. And if Billy Piper ever wants to play the Doctor, I'll assist her.
You know,
Who wouldn't?
You know, that was going to be my question for her, if she ever saw herself being a doctor.
I think that's what they should have done. Rose should have... I was saying it backstage. Rose should have moved up and become the Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
It was just too early in terms of... It's incredible, really, if you think about it. In 2004, they picked yet another white, skinny male to be the Doctor. If somebody had have said in 2004 it should be a woman, there'd have been outrage. And yet only, I don't know, 14 years later, it's acceptable. But it's ridiculous that we weren't thinking of a female doctor at that time.
Yeah.
But I do think it's time for, genuinely, joking aside, it's clearly, certainly in my country, I think we're all tired of how difficult it is to be a white male. And if we don't know how difficult it is to be a white male anymore, so, yes, I mean, I think from my age, 55-year-old bloke, I don't think I should be carrying dramas anymore. I know I'm putting myself out of work, but I have a daughter, I have a son who needs to see that the world is not a patriarchy anymore. And I think that the idea of males being marginalised in dramas is going to throw up interesting roles for men, you know, because that's what's happening to us, you know. So I would be definitely being I'm just desperate for work.
Well,
I don't even know how to put into words how much I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
thank you. I would definitely support Rose being a doctor.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thomas.
Hey, Thomas.
So I was going to ask how, we all know Doctor Who's a great sci-fi, but how do you think the horror aspects play into all the characters, and how do you think that works in certain episodes, are, you know, a little scarier than others?
Yeah, well, I have a 6-year-old daughter called Esme, a 7-year-old son called Albert, and recently my son said to me, "Daddy, somebody came up to me the other day and said, your daddy's the best doctor. Does that mean you make people feel better?" So I started showing them Doctor Who. I'd always kept them away from the idea that I was an actor. And I showed them Doctor Who, and they were absolutely terrified. And they were like, because my ego kicked in. They were going, turn it off, turn it off. I was going, no, this is my work. So I go and by the scruff of the neck and I made them watch. And now we're having therapy as a family. It'll be fine. What I realised was that I think they were terrified because the doctor happened to be their dad as well. So there was a double jeopardy. What I remember about the shooting of my series was that I knew that the doctor dances and what's the empty child. I knew. I wasn't so sure about a lot of the other, but I knew those episodes were going to terrify people. And I remember it took me a long time on the shoot to understand how to play the Doctor. But I realised a lighter touch from me was needed. During some of the darker scenes, there's a responsibility of the Doctor in an oblique, well, not in a direct way, to reassure the children watching that it's fun as well. If I'd have played straight out terror and anger in that episode, it would have been just too much for the adults, never mind the children. So there is a real horror element, and in Dalek, for instance, it's the Doctor who's horrified. And from an acting point of view, that was great, to play him, the one we always know as so brave, as terrified. So I think it's a massive ingredient, and in the UK, the cliche, the big joke is, when I was a kid, I was always hiding behind the sofa. That's the thing. Meaning the, what would you call it in the UK? So everybody said they used to hide behind the furniture when Doctor Who was on. As a child, I was terrified by the music. And the opening credits of Patrick Troughton's face, he looked... And he's my favourite Doctor. Patrick Troughton's my favourite Doctor. And he himself looked terrifying. And then the music. And also as a child, I was really intrigued and fascinated by the regenerations and this idea of a physical being exactly the same but totally different. That really fascinated me.
So
That
you
scared me.
can put Blink aside, but if someone comes at you with a violin as a kid, you'd be terrified.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
My name is Jesse Campbell.
Hey, Jesse.
And I got meningitis 3 years ago, and I was just curious, what are some words that the doctor would tell me when sometimes the days seem really hard to encourage me?
I need a script writer, don't I? I had a severe clinical depression 3 years ago, and I was hospitalized for 3 months. And I was in a situation where I couldn't see a future. Somebody said to me, you know, if you don't pull out of this, what a legacy you'll create for your children. I think if it's not too much of a burden to put on you, I think there are people in your life who love you deeply and need you around, and to have the spirit to fight this is all I could say, really.
You're fantastic.
First, I just have to say how much I absolutely love you, and you were the best doctor in my personal opinion.
Did you say that to David Tennant?
I did not mean
David?
I definitely think you were...
Matt Smith? Hold it!
It was Baker!
Second, about your kid's funny story about asking if you make people feel better. When my daughter was just 2 and 3, we started watching Doctor Who, and we started with you. And anytime she was sick, she had to have her doctor.
Oh. Thank you.
But my question for you is, how did it feel for you to bring back the doctor?
When I did it, I knew this question would come up. In a good way, because it's kind of... I was a pretty experienced actor when I did it in 2004. I'd been working in the industry for about 20 years. And I'd done some big things. I'd been in feature films and led them and been to Cannes. So I have to say that my way of blocking out the nerves and the responsibility to 2,500 people in Portland who are very intense about Doctor Who was just to chase the man dressed as the pig. Was to treat it, and please don't be offended by this, as another job. You know, we got a call sheet on the first day, and I looked at the call sheet, and I thought, we need to achieve this call sheet, these scenes, and you cannot think about all this when you're playing the Doctor. I think anybody would say that. You cannot. You just have to think about giving your performance, and being true to it. And I didn't realise how vast it was. And I think it's fair to say that it's got bigger since, and he must get the credit for this, not me, not David Tennant, Russell T. Davies. Now, me and Russell T. Davies have serious personal difficulties and disagreements. We don't get along. But he's the man who's responsible. He took the character of Rose, he feminised Doctor Who. The assistant is now just as integral to Doctor Who, the female role, and that came from Russell. He really did that, him and Billy. I'm lost now. Well, how was I answering? So, I'd done a thing with Russell called Second Coming, and I knew, I mean, he's borderline genius, right? So, I felt I was in a good place because of the script. and I felt I'll just do the job. And I blocked a lot of it out. I didn't embrace it in the way that perhaps David and Matt did. I'm a different animal. But I just did the job, you know.
Well, you were amazing, and you
Thank you.
are my favorite.
Thank you.
Hi, what was your favorite part in Doctor Who?
I really loved, at the time of Doctor Who, my father was suffering from dementia when I was shooting it. And he was suffering from dementia, and then he was diagnosed with cancer. And he had to have an operation, a gastrectomy. And I had to help take care of him in the hospital. And I had 2 very intense weeks by my father's bed, and then I went back and shot an episode called Father's Day. Oh, God. Oh. Which the Doctor, traditionally they'll always do an episode in a series which is light of the Doctor. They're giving the actor a break and they're giving the audience a break from Doctor. And that was Billy's episode, really. She really led that. But I personally loved that episode. It was Rose travelling back in time to meet her father, and I found that very, very moving. So it was that episode, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There we go. A little tall. Thank you. So I got into Doctor Who by people swearing to me up and down my favorite Doctor would be David Tennant or Matt Smith.
Oh my God.
And I watched it, but the thing is, I watched it and you were my Doctor.
Yes.
Like, you were really the Doctor that I always said is my favorite. And so, yeah, a little emotional, but I guess my question is, if you got to play Doctor Who again with any other companion?
Oh, I couldn't. I only play it with one companion. I know, seriously, that's an emotional thing for me too. I can only be with Rose, really.
Completely different about when you're in Thor: The Dark World, and I'm so happy when I realized it was you. How was it like?
You're the only person who did realise it. Was it the nose or the ears? They made my big ears bigger. I mean...
What was it like getting in that makeup?
A pain in the arse. It was 8 hours.
Oh.
I can't stand it when actors complain, but anyway, I'm going to do it. They used to pick me up at 2 a.m. And I'd be in the chair at 3, and then I'd probably get on set at 10 a.m. And nobody knew it was me. And I have to say that the people who were doing the SFX makeup, special effects on me, this is a slight generalization, but the people who do that are geniuses, but they are not necessarily the most socially versed. They will spend 6 hours plucking one eyebrow. But if you want to go to the bathroom, you're in trouble. You know? How dare you have human needs? Well, it's working!
Thank you so much.
Hi, Chris. My name is Jade. I've just been standing in line hearing your voice, and I've been through a couple of these, and I've never gotten sort of emotional hearing a doctor speak because your voice is so iconic to me.
Oh.
You were my first, and...
My last, my everything.
You said that you would do some things things differently. And I just hope that you know that whatever you did something so overwhelmingly right. Because I and thousands and probably millions of people absolutely fell in love with Doctor Who because of you. So thank you. That you did a convention in England, and I've been waiting, and my dreams were answered because you're here. But I was wondering, what brought you back? I know that you distanced yourself from it for several years, but I was wondering what inspired you to come and kind of join the family again?
I think not one thing. I think there was a great deal of anger in me about the politics and the way I was treated in the aftermath. There was a lot of seriously bad politics by Russell and Julie and Phil and the BBC. I was unofficially blacklisted in the UK. I didn't work for 4 years. So what was great for you guys wasn't so great for me. To a certain extent, what they needed to do was discredit me to help the next Doctor. And what they did was they forgot that I was a human being. So, I'm from Salford. And we don't forget that shit. And we don't let it pass, you know. I come from people who don't let that kind of thing pass. But I've had children. I've had a nervous breakdown. I've got older. And
hotter.
Who said that? You said, okay.
one thing I would say to you is when you do theatre or you go to a premiere, you will get autograph hunters. But say when I was doing Macbeth for 12 months, you will get the same autograph hunters, and they will want your autograph for about the 100th or the 150th time, and they'll trade it and they'll sell it, and that means when you want to give your autograph for charity, it's not worth as much because the internet's flooded. And that aggravated me, and to be honest, I expected that at these conventions, and it's the complete opposite. What I realised is that you all do want to meet us, express your affection, and that the memorabilia that we sign is for you. So you must understand that there is a market out there for some of our stuff, but that, and thank you, because these conventions have got a huge smile on their face, are great for us. And we do get paid, let's not pretend we don't get paid. Let's not pretend that. But also it's a very positive experience.
That right there is what I want to hear.
Yeah.
The positive experience. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jasmine, and you talked a little bit about Star Trek, so I was wondering what other fandoms you are deeply invested in.
There is a 5'6" tall, ginger-headed footballer called Paul Scholes. Does anybody know who Paul Scholes is? He plays for my team, Manchester United. He used to. And I met him by chance in Manchester in a Starbucks with his wife and his child, and I was a quivering. It was just pathetic. So that, and I would say, and I have to say thank you to you for this, Black American music. I was born in 1964. I was brought up in a very white environment, a council estate, what you would call the projects, I suppose. And all we listened to was Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. And I would say probably for me the biggest fan is Aretha Franklin is enormous for me. Jamaican music, I'm obsessive about it. I can tell you who played bass on the third Bob Marley and the Wailers album, I can tell you all that. I have a serious fanboy in me about Manchester United and Jamaican and Black American music.
Hi,
this is actually like my first panel that I've gone to, so this is really exciting.
You picked a good one.
So this is kind of on the topic of Thor: The Dark World again. It's kind of like a different world at the same time as being very similar to Doctor Who. So what was it like? Like, what are the differences that you saw between, or like, what was the differences between how you played each character? Like, did you look at it differently, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with Doctor Who, before I played the Doctor, I tended to play the bad guy, or I tended to play men who were very troubled and conflicted. I'd never played a hero before. In fact, I'd avoided heroes. I was interested in the fact that we're all kind of a mixture of good and bad and salt and pepper mixture. And the thing I loved about Doctor Who was being the hero. Malekith obviously was not that. But through the layers and layers of plastic, I wanted to try and make there be some complexity. But Marvel didn't really want that. But it's interesting. No, the interest in the third Thor film is brilliant. I think where Marvel went wrong with that particular film was that they had no sense of humour. And if somebody's dressed up as a naughty elf, you've got to have a sense of humour. And that is what I understood about Doctor Who. In order to sell the horror, in order to alleviate the horror, you have to have a sense of humour. And that's what I struggled with in that film. There was no levity. And I felt that Chris Hemsworth playing Thor was struggling with that at the time. He wanted to inject some humour, and with the third one they did that. And it was a box office smash. And they addressed the script, because the script was poor on 2. I think it was, compared to 3, I think it was, you know, so a bit of a sense of humour. But Thor was great for me because I met Anthony Hopkins. And I had a scene with him which was left on the cutting room floor. But I still had a scene with my absolute hero.
Hello, my name's Trevor.
Hi, Trevor.
So, you were probably the doctor that got me really into this show. I really enjoyed how you could go from humorous, running with a banana, to angry about the war. So when they did the reunion with David Tennant and Matt Smith and included John Hurt as the doctor who fought in the war, something that was really missing in it for me was I was really curious how your doctor would have interacted with John Hurt's doctor.
Yeah.
Like
one of my favourite actors. How he would have interacted.
Yes.
They approached me to be in that, but the BBC had still not apologised to me. And I'm from Salford, as I said before. I liked Stephen Moffat a lot. I considered it, but I wasn't... It had an enormous emotional impact on me. What happened with Doctor Who is, as the series was going out, as the series was being celebrated, I was being vilified in the press in the UK because of a statement that the BBC issued. And it caused quite a depression in me, actually, that year, while everybody was going, Doctor Who's great, he's gone. Because they kind of smeared me and told lies about me. So when it came along, I did speak to them. I didn't feel that what they were asking me to do did justice to the 9th Doctor. So I said, no, but the virtue of that is that we then get the War Doctor, because if I'd have come back, you wouldn't have got the War Doctor. The War Doctor was there precisely because the 9th Doctor wasn't, and John Hurt's a far better actor than me. And that opened up a whole new dimension with John Hurt. So it was a positive thing. It was a positive thing, really. I would have loved to have acted with him. Loved to. I did meet him, and he walked past me and he said, "Oh, Chris, we're kind of mingled, aren't we? We're mingled. You and I. I should be so lucky, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's your candor about your experience as the Doctor is incredible, and I appreciate it because there are questions obviously that people have, and your willingness to answer them very forthright shows through. So thank you for that.
Thank
This is really cool, for starters. I think everybody here knows you from Doctor Who, obviously, but I actually really love a lot of your stage and Shakespeare work. Last year there was King Lear.
On TV, yeah,
yes.
With Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, and you were great in that.
Thank you.
And obviously Macbeth and stuff. And so I have kind of some short questions. What is your favorite Shakespeare play? Do you plan on doing any more Shakespeare in the future? And what would be your dream Shakespeare role that you would love to do?
When I was 17, I was in an amateur production of Macbeth. I played the bloody sergeant and Macduff. And those are quite small roles. So I used to spend my whole time in the wings of the theatre watching. He was called Ayub Khan Din, who played Macbeth, watching Macbeth, and I fell in love with that play. And at 17, I decided to become an actor, and I decided that my greatest ambition as an actor was to play Macbeth at the Royal Shakespeare Company. So, bizarrely, I did. But when I did King Lear, I had a very small part in it. I did that job because I wanted to watch Anthony Hopkins work, and we had a 3-week rehearsal process, which is very unusual for television. And I wanted to watch Hopkins because I knew I was about to play Macbeth, and I think he's the greatest living Shakespearean actor. So I watched him do it. But in that process, I fell in love with King Lear, partly related to the fact that my father, who was a very strong alpha male, became demented in his life. And there's no doubt that King Lear is suffering from dementia. So I would say Macbeth and King Lear. I think they're his two masters. But I played Hamlet as well. It's very hard to... Macbeth, Hamlet, and King Lear. And I want to do more Shakespeare. I want to play King Lear. I want to play Prospero. I have a daughter now, Esme, and The Tempest is very much about a father-daughter relationship. Miranda and Prospero understanding that in order to get his daughter back, he's got to let her go. So yeah, I love acting on stage, and I love doing Shakespeare.
Would you ever do something like Titus Andronicus?
Yeah, I do want to do Titus. He knows his stuff.
That'd be great.
You know there's an Anthony Hopkins film?
Yes, from 1999.
Directed by the woman who directed The Lion King on Broadway.
Yes.
Yeah, people get baked in pies and people's tongues are ripped out. It's
Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to play Titus, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a two-part question. First of all, what was your favorite, or what were you most scared of when you watched Doctor Who as a little kid? And also, did you ever go home after filming Doctor Who and feel creeped out from the villains on the show? Or the aliens?
Somebody in here will be able to tell me exactly which episode this was.
There might be one or two, I don't know.
Yeah. In the 70s, there was an episode where you saw what was inside a Dalek.
Oh, yeah.
And in my memory, it was a small green entity. That terrified me. That really scared me that there was inside this terrifying metallic pepper pot was this kind of green mollusk. That was very scary. I think Father's Day had an emotional impact on me when I went home at night. And I think The Empty Child did. I found that, you know, when you do Doctor Who, all of the doctors will tell you, you work for 9 months, you work 6 days a week, and you work 12 hours a day, so you know, you're hallucinating anyway. So if you go home tired and hallucinating and you've been being chased around by a small child with a gas mask on, you're gonna get... I should have lived in Portland because you've got all this medicated marijuana. Fine. I'd have been fine here. Beer, marijuana. Who cares about pink?
Thank you. There we go. Okay,
You're being very serious and you've got large pink ears on your head.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a pretty lame question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Out of all of the TARDIS interiors, which one is your favorite?
Mine.
Not a lame question at all.
Yours? Okay, other than yours, which one? Classic Who, not that I'm like ribbon on yours, but...
My favourite Doctor Who episode ever is the first one, the black and white one, where is it? What's it called? A Child in Time? Unearthly Child. I think that is so brilliantly atmospheric. That episode, and what we're seeing is the creation of the myth. And I do think my first memory of Doctor Who is a black and white episode with Troughton. And I think there's I'd like to, if I did Doctor Who, I'd say, yeah, I'll come back, but we have to do it in black and white. I think it's beautiful in black and white. The use of shadow and her face, you know, that the way they lit her face and lit the Doctor's. And his sternness, you know, it was very interesting, hard edge to it. I like the simplicity of the TARDIS. I love the fact that you will cut to this extraordinary, bigger on the inside, but the fact that he has a key, you know. I used to go, oh, I'll just get the key out of my pocket, Rose. I like the juxtaposition of the ordinary and the extraordinary.
Alright, thank you.
Good question. We have time just for a few more.
Hi, I'm Kaylee.
Hi, Kaylee.
I came here last year and I met David Tennant and I told him that he was my favorite Doctor.
And were you dressed like that then as well?
Actually, I was dressed as Rose Tyler from the episode The Idiot's Lantern.
Okay. Thank you for being honest. We've all come here today for therapy. So, you know, it's not going to be any use to us as a family. Go on, sorry.
This interaction is actually quite special because you were my first Doctor as well. On the topic of favorite Doctors, I'm going to ask you your least favorite Doctor or your least favorite companion throughout the whole show.
Well, my least favourite Doctor is myself. I can't watch myself. I couldn't, you know, if I was going to criticise an actor, I'd only ever do it to their face. So I would say I'm the least favourite Doctor. When I watch myself playing the Doctor, I see failure. Well, you do. If you act, if you see yourself at a wedding video, you go, my nose doesn't look like that. My voice doesn't sound like that. So it would be me. And listen, pre-Me Too and pre-everything, to a teenage boy, a lot of those assistants were okay by me. I'm sure sorry, but you know, what am I going to say?
Well, then who's your least favorite companion?
Oh, Mickey. I hate it, Mickey. Planks, as we used to say.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have time for one more.
Oh, wow.
No pressure.
So pressure.
No pressure.
So much pressure. There we go. Thank you. Okay. My name is Patrick, by the way.
Hey, Patrick.
Yes, nice to meet you. I guess I would like to say that I grew up on 4. And I grew up with 4 all the way through 7 and 8, and when you finally brought everything back, one thing I noticed is that all the doctors are a little mad. They're all a little just a card short, you know, and I'm just wondering, they all kind of peppered it throughout their series, and yours was just every episode you had such madness in you, and I'm wondering, was that something you decided to do from the start, or did it gradually come on with you as you played the Doctor?
That was a response to the writing, but also I based my Doctor on Russell T Davies.
Is Russell T Davies insane?
Completely. I remember reading the first episode, and he said the Doctor, because he wanted to get away from the kind of foppish era, you know, that kind of slightly Victorian car crash with Spandau Ballet or something that was going on at one time. So he said the Doctor wears a leather jacket, and I remember thinking, you wear a leather jacket. And Russell, a conversation with Russell is, you will go from, it's like very like a conversation with Damon Lindelof, actually, who did Lost and The Leftovers. These have got hyperactive brains and imaginations. So it was taken, the inner pace of my Doctor was taken from Russell.
Can I just say real quick, you know, everybody is right. You brought it back for all of us, and we're all very proud that you were the Doctor, so you shouldn't feel bad about anything.
Can you and I take a selfie together with the crowd in the background? Let's do it.